here from the Global Benchmarking Network and also from the Asian Productivity Organisation. So don't ask too many difficult questions, please. And we're talking about 50 years combined experience of Anton and I, not each. I'm not quite that old. So what we'd like to talk about today is some progress, I suppose, towards implementation of and getting results from organisational excellence frameworks. So Dawn has talked about the frameworks and consolidation of frameworks across the globe, but from the benchmarking that Anton and I have been doing over the last 50 years combined, we've identified some quite simple and straightforward practices that people can use to actually deploy and get value from the organisational excellence or business excellence frameworks. Here you have a picture of the Baldrige framework, of course. Now these frameworks tell you what to do, but they don't tell you how to do it. And when an evaluator comes into your organisation, they're looking for how you're using the framework. And we saw in some of the presentations earlier that the scoring by the evaluators is slightly over half normally, slightly over 50% on how you're actually deploying the framework, but the other quite significant percentage of the scoring is on results. And why do you think the reason for that is? Any ideas? Sorry? The proof of the pudding is actually in the eating, yes, very much so, yeah. And often I've seen the deployment of frameworks fail in organisations because they're not focused on the results. And the CEO will say, well, what's this column of smoke that we can't get hold of? What's the purpose of it? And the purpose of using business excellence is to get outcomes for your stakeholders, your customers, as well as your organisation. We saw the Vero presentation. It has to be a mutual benefit for the customers, the stakeholders, and the organisation, and its shareholders or stakeholders, or its community of the government as a whole. So the 9 pillars of business excellence that Anton and I have put together is around how organisations across the globe have been able to get results from business excellence. Part of this work stemmed from a request by British Telecom a few years ago of the Global Benchmarking Network to find organisations who have been able to get quick and large improvements in their results and have also been able to sustain those improvements over time. And this map shows in red the organisations at that time who were members of the Global Benchmarking Network. But the map also shows some case study examples of results that have been achieved by applying business excellence and benchmarking as part of business excellence. What do you notice about the results? Are they little? Or are they large? They are large outcomes, aren't they? Large improvements in results of particular examples that I've given here, key performance indicators. Key performance indicators around cost, around customer satisfaction, around reducing waste. So the 9 pillars of best practice that Anton and I have found over the last 50 years of combined experience are listed here. The important thing about these 9 pillars is that you probably are aware of some of these practices that we're going to discuss. No doubt you are. The important thing is to make them simple so that people can actually use them within your organisation. And the other important thing you'll notice is how, just like the business excellence frameworks, that these principles or pillars of best practice are actually integrated. Now, I can give you a presentation about this, or we can discuss it. What would you prefer? Do we want one? Our two facilitators here to really work hard and hand the microphones around so we can discuss this, or do you want to have another PowerPoint presentation? If we discuss it, I can support our discussion with some of the slides that I have, obviously not necessarily in the right order. But let's start with a vital few key performance indicators. What do you think I mean by that? Sorry? 10 or less. 10 or less? How about we reduce that?
5 or less.
5 or less, yes, thank you. No more than a handful. How many key performance indicators should a board of management of an organisation be looking at?
5.
No more than a handful. But you say, look at the annual report, often reporting 40 or 50 results across the organisation. So how does the board manage that? How does the board manage the reporting of 40 or 50 results across the organisation when they are only themselves looking at 5? Delegation, yes, delegation. And what's the importance of delegation? The importance is ownership and buy-in through the organisation to outcomes that belong in different parts of the organisation. So first principle, first pillar, no more than 5 key performance indicators at any one level of the organisation. An example, air traffic control. 0 harm for the boss, cascading down to incidents for the chief air traffic controller who's actually doing the work at the moment, cascading down to 2 indicators for the actual air traffic controller. And what do you notice about those indicators? Separation of aircraft. So I've got to keep these aircraft away from each other according to certain parameters on my screen. And secondly, handover. Because a root cause of incidents or accidents has been the handover from one air traffic controller when he or she finishes their shift to another. So when I hand over, I have to make sure that the next air traffic controller fully understands the situation. Of course, there's other parameters that have to be managed, like throughput of aircraft, and they are in conflict with safety. That just shows how the cascading of key performance indicators can occur. And often we think about doing strategy mapping. And I've tried strategy mapping and it's pretty complicated. Anyone tried it? With their people? Had trouble with it? Yeah, it's complex, isn't it? Yeah, let's get back to the root cause analysis. And look how this root cause analysis identifies, for customer satisfaction, the contributing elements of customer satisfaction. To do with people, training. So that key performance indicator has to belong in HR somewhere. Machinery, terminals down. That has to belong in IT somewhere there. Terminal uptime or computer uptime. So you can see how doing a root cause analysis of an outcome for the organisation of customer satisfaction can give you aligned key performance indicators throughout the organisation. Simple too. So simplicity is the key here. Can I go back in the slides? Process innovation is the second pillar in 4 days. Anyone try business process re-engineering? How long did it take? Depends on the process. For a core business process? 2 years, yeah. What's the boss saying? Where's the outcome? Where's the results? What are these people doing? You've taken them offline for 2 years. 4 days of cross-functional team time to come up with major recommendations for improvement. How do they do that? An example is an insurance company in Australia. How have they done that? Anyone heard of the principle called Pareto? So in mapping our process and looking at the as-is situation, we look for opportunities to improve, and based on the outcomes desired of the process, we are then Paretoing and prioritising through Pareto the opportunities so that we only work on the 20% of the opportunities for improvement that will give us 80% of the benefit. Forget about the other 80% of the process. Continue that process as is. Have a question?
I'd just like to add that because we recently looked at some processes across different businesses in the water industry in Victoria, tried to make them the same because there's a similar customer experience. And what happened often is that some people went into far too much detail because it is quite complicated. Customers have all these different things. So we set ourselves a rule to only look at what happens in 90% of the cases. Otherwise, so don't try to make a process that covers everything. You got to leave some to the start, to the products and to the stuff to actually implement something.
So you're looking for 90% of the benefit, which might relate to 15% of the process? Or
Yes,
improvement.
because there will always be sort of out of the blue requests from customers that you can't process.
Any other experiences with process improvement you'd like to share? Yes,
Strategic thinking around your processes so you know, similar to what you said about vital few KPIs, it's vital few processes, and you narrow that down and then put that limited time frame around it. What many organizations do not do is that strategic thinking around their project.
and how I've seen organisations do that strategic thinking is having management sit with the people who do the work and their supervisors to do a systems thinking view of the process. So a systems view of the process looks at the stakeholders, the outcomes desired by the stakeholders, the inputs, the supporting management system, and also the values and vision and direction of the organisation. So the process then is what produces those values with the inputs and the value adding from the values and direction of the organisation and the business excellence framework. How long, has anyone done a system view of their business or a process? Yeah, how long did it take? Sorry, did you say you have done a system view?
Oh,
Yeah, how long did it take?
Provided you had a good cross-functional team there that was involved in all parts, we did 2 lots of 4-hour sessions.
Yeah, that's good. So it can be done within half a day or a day. The first cut can be done within 2 or 3 hours. And again, applying the principles of Pareto, that's the starting point for process improvement. Have a comment?
Yes, stop.
Sorry?
It hasn't stopped.
It hasn't stopped. What's that hasn't stopped?
Systems approach.
Oh, no, but you continue to apply it to new processes, different parts of the organisation.
It's not a project.
No, exactly. It's an ongoing. We're talking about ongoing continuous improvement. But for first part of one process improvement, you should be able to do a system view with the right people within 3 to 4 hours. And that then sets the parameters for your process improvement. Vision and recognition by leaders. What's the role of a leader in an organisation? One of the winners of the Business Excellence Prize in Australia was Honeywell Pacific. There's only been 2 winners of the prize in Australia. And the leader of Honeywell Pacific was asked, you'll never hear, or hardly ever hear, in Australia. What happens? He said the business continues to function, but it doesn't move forward. So what are the roles of the leaders in an organisation? The key roles of leadership obviously set the vision and reinforce the vision, set the values and reinforce the behaviours. Two other aspects though that are important for leadership. One relates to structure and process. So our organisations are structured vertically for control. But our customers want things horizontally, don't they? Because the process cuts across HR, IT, finance, service delivery. So an important role of leadership in an organisation is to break down what we call the silos of the organisation and to make sure the organisation's processes work horizontally. Now you can see the integration here now with process improvement that we discussed earlier, whereby you have people from different parts of the process, so different departments in the organisation working together to improve the process. That's one way a leader can promote cross-functional view of the organisation with the end customer in mind. There's one other thing that a leader must do, and often leaders forget about this, and I'm talking about leaders at all levels of the organisation. And you can see it up there, it's the recognition. And we all know that best practice in recognition is immediate, and it doesn't have to be anything of great value. It's just the fact that the boss understands and supports me in what I have done. And the immediacy of that and the genuineness of that is important. Why do we want recognition? What's the importance of recognition? Sorry? Motivation, yeah. We're all human, aren't we? And we like to be reinforced when we've done good things. And we like to be supported when we've made a mistake. And supported in learning from those mistakes. Fourth pillar. What do we mean by customer centricity? Anyone?
I guess the customer being the center of the whole universe.
Exactly, yeah. The customer being the centre of the whole universe. So that if you are not serving a customer, you should be serving someone who is serving a customer. So the concept of the internal customer and the value chain along the process in the organisation as it cuts across the various departments in the organisation. So the adage of customer centricity we've seen in organisations is that focusing on the whole organisation on the needs of the external customer. So this is the real customer. But recognising to do that people within the organisations are customers and suppliers of one another. So that leads to then the concept of service level agreements. Any comment on service level agreements? No doubt in some of your organisations, your IT department has a service level agreement with you. How many pages is it? Sorry? Too many. Yeah. It's often 30, 40 pages. So you cannot see the wood for the trees. The concept of a partnership agreement is whereby the internal service areas come to you as a service provider for the external customer and work with you on how they can help you to service the external customer better. But for them to do that, they need something from you as well. They might need information from you or advice on improvements. So it's a two-way partnership agreement on one page with KPIs on each party, key performance indicators on each party. So keeping it simple, but also focused on the external customer in terms of customer centricity. One-page plans. And this is something that many organisations have struggled with. Is anyone utilising a one-page strategic plan within their organisation? Sorry?
Can you use both sides?
Both sides, and no, you can't. And you can't have any typeface less than 8 point either. Okay? You can use an A3, providing it'll fit in your pocket.
Both sides, and that's one page.
Yes. What's the purpose of a one-page plan? Sorry? Communication is one of the key purposes. Yes. But what's the other purpose? And that's why you're wanting to make it 2 pages or have 5-point type or have an A3. What's the other purpose? Keep it short and simple, thanks, Barry. Yeah, what you can't fit on won't get done. What you can't fit on will not get done. So always strive to do things that you're not going to be able to do. How demotivating is that to your people? When each year you trot out 40 key objectives and don't achieve any of them because you're trying to do all of them. So one of the disciplines is getting on one page, prioritising what is really important for the next planning period and getting that focus and then communication and alignment through the organisation. I'll just show you an example. Sorry, the other important thing is the discussion that goes on. So you have groups of people at different levels of the organisation working on their one-page plan together. So in this instance here, the one-page plan has actually been blown up in its various segments onto the wall so that people can actually work with it. But its final output is communicated in a 1-page, not 2-page, not A3. You can make it A3 to make the typeface a bit easier to read, document. And look at the message it's sending to the organisation. By the way, you can see the values there. For this organisation, they are the values for improvement. That's how they interpreted the business excellence for everybody to work in the organisation. Satisfy your customers, continually improve, involve everyone in improvement, and make sure you're measuring how you're going. Cascading through the organisation, you then have a series of one-page plans for each department that align to the one-page plan for the organisation. And a key best practice we've seen, and Kodak Australasia was the other prize winner in Australia, and they basically won the prize on the basis of their strategic planning and the visibility of their planning and performance management. So these plans were posted up on walls in every department. The organisational plan, the department's plan, bits of string joining together where we're supporting the organisation's plan, and then the key performance indicators were graphed. How they're currently performing, how that performance is contributing to the organisation's overall performance, graphed and put on the wall. So that when the boss comes down and communicates, they've got something to talk about. Okay, I see you're performing well there. What's happened to your defect rate? What's the problem there? How can we help you to reduce your defect rate? Gives a basis for discussion. Here the plan then is cascaded to individuals in the organisation. This is the individual's performance plan. You can see there are 2 pillars, maybe 1 or 2, where they're contributing to the vision and direction of the organisation by being involved maybe in improvement teams. There's a couple of pillars there of objectives where they're contributing to their department's objectives. But there's also a pillar where the organisation is helping them to develop. So a 1-page performance plan, which is then discussed as part of the performance review process. Doing benchmarking well. Benchmarking is one of the, I hate to call it a tool, but it is an improvement tool. It's more than that, it's a very strategic improvement tool. But it's the only real improvement tool that's specifically asked for by the business excellence frameworks. Why do you think that is? Six Sigma is not asked for. Benchmarking is asked for. Why do you think benchmarking is asked for? Sorry? Yes. benchmarks, that's how you compare. So you can see whether you're comparing with, how you're comparing with your industry, your competitors, and also with world class. 1 minute, yes. But the next stage is improving as a result of that comparison. So where are your gaps? How do you use benchmarking to improve? Anyone want to say? You find organisations who are strong in the areas where you have your priority gaps, and you learn how they produce their strengths so that you can actually adapt and then implement those improvements within your own organisation. So benchmarking is an important element in terms of getting the best out of business excellence. And that leads then, going back one, to business excellence assessment. You have a real value in doing business excellence assessment. So assessing how well you're performing relative to your business excellence framework by engaging your people in that assessment process to identify strengths which you want to retain, particularly if your organisation is growing or changing direction or being acquired or acquiring. And also, you want to be able to close your gaps in terms of the way you use business excellence to achieve your results. And you have a great opportunity for benchmarking in different industries because there are 86 countries out there using these frameworks, which are quite similar. And how many organisations, I don't know. But no doubt amongst those 86 countries and all those organisations, there are organisations who have strengths in the areas where you have gaps. It's a matter of then finding who those organisations are and partnering with them to exchange good practices so you can learn to improve and they can learn to improve as well. Lean, I've only got 2 minutes, I think. Looking at your processes from this perspective. Value added to the customer and stakeholders. The red does not add value to the customers or stakeholders and therefore should be eliminated. This is where you can get rapid improvement in terms of costs and resource allocation on your process and then convert that resource to more value added work for customers. Blue, you have to question and try and reduce. And all of that will lead to engagement and recognition. Anyone know what with me means? Sorry? What's in it for me?
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? Very important principle when management is communicating through the organisation: change, vision, direction. You have to segment your employee base and communicate what's in it for them. This is a good practice to help get their buy-in. And a communication strategy which is much more detailed and you might have to think about for your organisation. So that covers the 9 principles, or the 9 pillars, I suppose, in a very rough and very quick way in terms of the opportunities for you to apply these best practices to get results